This book is not for kids. What comes to mind when you think Bambi? Is it this book or the Disney film from 1942? When other adaptations are made, I'm kind of aware of the source material and the many adaptations like Moby Dick, The Little Mermaid, Rumpelstiltskin, Rapunzel, even some modern ones like Harry Potter and The Witcher. Ooh, speaking of The Witcher, were you the gamer or the reader? I'd like to explore Bambi the story and Bambi the film with you today. So before we get in, there will be spoilers ahead, and we're going to start off with the book. Book opens up with Bambi being born, showing the beauty of the forest, learning to watch out and stay behind his mother, and to not ask questions because he's too young to understand. Bambi learns to survive in the scarcity of winter. He has the feelings of elation with a first love, and realizes the impact that's left on an individual after watching a friend die. Bambi learns to be fearful of man, watch out for his hounds and his traps. He also sees how life can quickly come to an end, so it's probably better to be alone in life. This book was never intended for children. Its target audience was adults here. It was first published in German, 1922, under the title Bambi, eine Lebensgeschichte aus dem Wald. How's my German? Which it became popular at the time where he was, but then it shot him to international fame after a translation by Whittaker Chambers done in 1928 and became extremely popular with the US market. Reading this book, I cannot help but think about Felix Salzen's life and its parallels with the story in Bambi. Felix Salzen, whose birth name was Sigmund Salzmann, was born to Jewish parents in 1869 within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So putting that in its historical context there, he was there during World War I and in the lead up to World War II. Because of Salzen's profession, popularity, and he even rubbed shoulders with some of the Austrian nobility, I think that's what kept him okay in the lead up to World War II. But when war broke out, him and his missus had to flee to Switzerland and live out the rest of their days as refugees. The parallels between Salzen's life and Bambi are absolutely clear. How the deer is always on the lookout, always trying to look after itself, be fearful of man, his hound, and his traps, while going about their life in the forest. And if you like things like this, I also have a Substack. It's called Ches Uvi, where I post about stories, adaptations, language, and a little bit of culture. Link for that is in the description box below. Now, let's go on to the film. What I described in the book sounds really nothing like the Bambi movie from 1942. The Disney one is much more happier. And I'm sure we know it, but we'll just go through the story anyway. Bambi's born, all the forest creatures are already calling him a prince. Pretty cool. He gets two good mates, Thumper and Flower. He learns the ways of the forest. He survives a winter, which is harsh, but makes it through. Bambi loses his mother, and then, of course, he gets a bit older, frolics in the fields, mates with a deer. The other older stag prince comes in and looks after him. And then, there's a big fire. That's right. A big fire comes through, which I can't remember if it started by man or if it's an accident. But fire comes through. It's terrible, but then springs back and the circle of life begins again. I don't even know if you can say that the Disney film was inspired by the book. The rights were bought by Disney in 1937, yet it was released in 1942. And admittedly, that major delay was in there because the source material was too dark, too somber for the more lighthearted and uplifting Disney brand. There is nothing wrong with the film. It's a wonderful piece and holds a special place in many people's hearts, mine included. But to say that it has some connection with the book by Felix Salzen, I think it's kind of a stretch. With the popularity of the book at the time, I think the reason why Walt Disney got it was to be ahead of the eight ball, to make a film like this and say, yes, I've got the rights, instead of begging for forgiveness at the other end. The movie Bambi was released in 1942. It didn't do too well at the box office, probably because World War II was going on, but in subsequent years, it's made its return several times over. Because of the film's popularity and subsequent success, we know first about the film and almost forgot what inspired the idea of Bambi. The only reason I know about this book is from another book called How to Be Well Read by John Sutherland, which I've got another Substack on YouTube about, which you can check out if you'd like. Now, I do find it a strange coincidence that I was in the Boston Library, stumbling across this wonderful book by Sutherland, flicked through it, and then a few days later, I'm in New Hampshire This book is on sale, still got the sale ticket on it, from the Toadstool bookstores. I'm just, whoa, 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 whoa. There seems to be this demand for dark and edgy media, and in 2020, Disney announced that it would do a more live-action remake of Bambi. Photorealistic CGI, I think is the words they used. Now, I'm just wondering, with this relaunch, remake, would they go back to the original source material and draw more out of that for this new remake? Though now, at time of recording, it is March 2025, Bambi, A Life in the Woods is now in public domain. It was released in 2022, so now anyone and everyone is free to make an adaptation of Bambi, the one by Felix Salten. In essence, the film is not an adaptation of the book, because it never was. It was just inspired by it. So Disney did what he said he did, so I probably shouldn't freak out anymore, should I? I guess that's show business, baby. If you adore the movie, if you are a die-hard Disney fan, you will not like the book, because it is a harsh, real, moral story making connections between what a Jewish person was feeling, what they experienced leading up to World War II. And since this book doesn't seem to be that well known, and if you're curious, go on, have a read. And now, because this work is in the public domain, it's free to read. Just, if anything, go check out chapter 8. Please, if you're curious. Before finishing up, I'd like to read a snippet out of the introduction of my version from Jack Zipes, which sums up really why I'd recommend reading Bambi, A Story of a Life in the Forest. This is a great shame, for Salten's novel is a brilliant and profound story of how minority groups throughout the world have been brutally treated, even when they tried to live peacefully in their own environment. Read in the original language and in its socio-historical context, Bambi is, if anything, dystopic and sobering, for it reveals the cutthroat manner in which powerless people are hunted and persecuted for sport. As always, links to my socials and Substack are in the description box below. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye-bye!